What is it? What does it mean? Here's my take on it, for what it's worth. Now, curious. 2 seconds. Two-second stream. 2 seconds. Alright. Just need to unplug something. Do a system check. Now, the way of a HEXican. Think about it. Think long and hard. This is just my opinion, of course. But think about it. Make sure that echo didn't come through. It's very late here. We have extremely bad weather. I'm still recovering, and I was in a deep meditation trying to figure out, what next. So I thought, what does an individual do at this point in time? So I thought, what am I doing? So to backtrack, Hex came out. People should understand how and why. We then, in the early days, it was like, what is Hex? How does it work? Things like ladders, t-shirts were still being learnt. There's also things like why Hex, why even at all? Why Richard? As time progressed, content, came out, and I guess the option was there if you want to teach about these things, about Hex, purely out of interest, a hobby, to share any form of message. Maybe you truly wanted to help other people in the crypto space. Because that leads me to the next point, crypto. Hex basically reset crypto in my mind, DeFi. It almost came to be a new crypto framework, crypto 101 if you want to call it. I remember the teachings, the gospel it sounds like. I remember the teachings, some flaws with certain protocols, some flaws with things like blockchain, some flaws with things like Bitcoin itself. Now, I'd never heard of this stuff before. And that's why I call it the crypto reset, the framework, the 101. Understanding how cycles work, the halving, things like that. 101. Now, this allowed in my mind, because I had no ulterior motives at all. This allowed for people to avoid scams, learning what scams are, the importance of holding your own keys, holding your own coins. It helped, I believe, people avoid things like Celsius, like FTX, and it taught basically the difference between a centralized exchange and how you're literally not holding your own crypto. And should the crypto go bust, too bad. That's curious, because where was the regulatory bodies through all of this? Isn't, I would have thought, a good approach from a regulatory body would be to teach individuals how to be safe, how not to get scammed, the importance of holding your own tokens. Anyway, that's not what this stream's about. So, moving on from there, we saw what took place with the whole Pulse chain. It was named Pulse chain as a joke from memory. 14 pulses. A literal community effort for free. There was no voting. There was no nothing. I think it might have come from a Hexo stream. No, from Richard Hart stream. I can't remember details of it. Now, from that point, the whole sacrifices, it appears you had, like, as an individual, deciding what to do next. You could have taken, I guess, the builder's path and not the Pulse chain, PulseX builder's path, a path that if you felt you could build something and add to the community, you may have done so. In essence, you want to try and do it better, to do Hex better, to do Pulse chain better, to do PulseX better. Now, in some instances, I think it added strongly to the community, some projects. In other instances, I'm not so sure things have even been released. That is what it is. So that leaves the individual. And it's like, what are we doing? Are we, going to teach people the fundamentals of Hex? Which so many people have done. And it's pretty much ingrained in a lot of people now. Or we're going to learn more. What are you going to learn more about? Are you going to leave communities and learn and develop yourself personally in your career? Or learn more about crypto, cryptography? Learn more about the law, taxes, coding, What are you going to learn more about? Or are you going to consume? What are you going to consume? The builders' content that are trying to do things better? And that's not a dig at any builders at all. But you have to remember, when there's new platforms, new tokens coming out, there can also be a range, 1 to 10 of usefulness, 1 to 10 of, is there malicious intent anyway? Are they good? Are they evil? 1 to 10. Myself, I'm sort of an old school HEXican. I focus mainly on Hex, Pulse, and PulseX, The things that aren't performing so well at the moment. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about them. But that's why I took a step back and I'm like, what is it that I'm actually doing? After going through all of those processes, these thought processes, you're left with what? Going to create content to teach others? Or are you going to create content to get famous? Try and get famous? Or are you going to create content to teach others to try and bring about a better civilization, a better understanding of crypto altogether? Or are you going to try and bring about teachings about other builders and how they're doing it, how they're potentially going to do it, how they're going to do it better than the initial thing, which was Hex, and the initial teachings, which allowed for people to avoid getting wrecked through scams? It's just curious, and then it's like, if you go down that path of creating content, or if you don't, you're going to get stuck in this feedback loop where you're constantly going online and watching, I don't even know what to say now, like HEXican content, trapped in a loop, trying to find the next best thing that will help you earn more money, basically, is what I'm saying. So if you're trying to find the next shiny object, even if you don't realize that you're doing it, you might be doing it. But little do you know that you probably started at the point, which was Hex, Now, I'm not talking to anyone particularly in the country, in the community. This is just purely like a reflection of myself here. And I'm thinking, why? What is the point of all this? To get trapped within the HEXican ecosphere, to watch content about ourselves? It's just confusing, That's all I got. Free speech, signing out.